So Gavin Newsom, as slick as he is, he's got egg on his face on this one. So the governor of California was so instrumental in calling a special session and then pushing through this law that he proclaimed, we have finally beaten big oil. It was a penalty that if big oil's profits ran too high, that they would be fined and penalized. This was to push back against price gouging. Price gouging it is. Well, let me tell you something, folks. Gavin Newsom, now when I tell you he's got egg on his face, it's about as big egg in his face as you can get. The California Energy Commission is going to pause the penalties for excessive profits until at least 2030. Now, that, folks, is great news for Californians. Why do I say that's great news for Californians? Because you have energy producers here in California that are getting set to leave. Major refineries. You've got two of them that amount to 18% of total capacity in California. They're ready to shut down operations because California just isn't fair to them. Now, why do I tell you California isn't fair to big oil? I know you know the answer to this. But I just saw on the platform X, there's gas in California, $5.98 a gallon. $5.98 a gallon. Now, the national average is $3.12. You can go to Texas and get it for far less than $3 a gallon. And California is nearly $6 a gallon in some places. This is why you can't afford to lose refineries. Forget about price gouging. This is about supply and demand. You lose 18% of capacity, price will skyrocket. You said, well, how does it get any higher? Well, this is how it gets higher. Now, you know those excessive profits that big oil was making? California, by the numbers that I see, the state of California makes $1.08 for every gallon sold in California. $1.08. The federal government makes 18 cents for every gallon sold of gas. Do you know how much big oil makes? This really will open your eyes, I think, to tell you, oh, maybe big oil isn't the price gouger that Gavin Newsom claims they are. Big oil makes 0.14 cents per gallon. So 14 cents per gallon goes to big oil. So you got California making $1.08 a gallon, the Fed's making 18 cents a gallon, California making 14 cents a gallon. Again, Newsom loved this idea of we're gonna punish big oil for excessive profits. We finally defeated big oil. Well, Gavin Newsom's administration, it wasn't him himself, sent out a big congratulations, thanking the Energy Commission for pausing this. I mean, are you kidding? He'll forget that he even called a special session about this. So this idea of price gouging, this is what every Democrat excuse is for inflation and higher profits. Higher prices. It's got to just be big companies, big industry, price gouging us. When in reality, it's what California is doing through regulation and overregulation. So this brings me to the California GDP, which these two stories go hand in hand. Gavin Newsom will claim that $4.1 trillion is the greatest GDP in America. Makes California, how many times have you heard this? The fourth largest economy in the world. But I would say we want substance over size, because size right now is not doing us any good in California. When I tell you California has the fourth highest GDP in the world and ask you, hey, how you doing with that? How's your rent? Great. I mean, we got a $4.1 trillion GDP. I bet the price of your rent must be coming down. Gas must be coming down. Oh, wait, no, we just did the story. It's at $5.98 in some places. So wait a second. We've got the fourth largest economy in the world. Yet I'm sorry all of you are being hammered. See, he doesn't say that out loud. But all of you are being hammered. So on paper, it sounds great, but real world, it really sucks. And by the way, California has now run a deficit 5 of the last 7 years. You've got income tax, you've got property tax, you've got sales tax, you've got every single kind of tax you can imagine. How does Florida and Texas, both deep red states, run surpluses, and think about this, with no federal income tax? They have less avenues to tax you, and they run a surplus. Roads are better. Everything's better in those states than in California. Florida can even compete with the sunshine. Now, I would argue Florida ain't as pretty as California is. When you throw the mountains in and all that, California's got you beat on gorgeous. It really does. For both the ladies and the environment. Gorgeous. But everything else, these other states beat California pretty darn good. Rents are soaring. Crime is soaring in California. Gas. Communities are being ignored. How many times does Gavin Newsom talk about impoverished communities are being ignored? Yet you've got a $4.1 trillion GDP, the fourth largest economy in the world. Wow, way to go. Big clap of the hands. So let's see how California ranks with its fourth largest economy in the world. You've got the economy. California ranks 32 in the country out of 50 states. California ranks 32, and we'll compare them to Texas and Florida. Texas number 2, Florida number 1. I don't think that surprises anybody. Education. California, number 24, Texas, 25. So they've got Texas beat on education. I'm surprised by that, actually. Florida, number 2. You're going to see a trend here. Florida, by far, is the number 1 place to be. Fiscal stability. California, 42. Now, this is about individual families. Fiscal stability. Ranks number 42. That tells you all you need to know. If you as a family don't have fiscal stability or feel like you have stability, you know what stress that brings on you? Ranks 42 in the nation. Texas, 12. Florida, 9. Infrastructure. Infrastructure meaning roads, all of these things. California, number 35. Texas, 18. Florida, 15. Opportunity. California ranks 50. Now, this is interesting because California, Texas, and Florida all at the bottom of the list. California, 50. Texas, 48. Florida, 47, based off of opportunity. I think they've got it wrong on this, but, that's an interesting one. Here, the biggest one, though, overall, okay, of what state is the best? You've got California, number 37, Texas, 29, Florida, number 6. Now, to me, California's got big problems. You've got the fourth largest economy in the world, yet you can't handle your business. Certainly, it's not a problem of money coming in. Or is the economy driven in large part by illegal immigration? Is the economy driven in California by government employees? The government is bloated in California. Is the economy a government-driven economy? A tax-driven economy? They start pushing it a little bit too much, which they already are, but they go even just a little bit more, you're going to have more corporations fleeing California. And when corporations flee California, you know what happens? The state will die. And this state is dying right now. It needs to be resuscitated. It can be resuscitated. It will be resuscitated with the right leadership. But that's going to be up to all of you, getting the right leadership in that state. Certainly California is a great example for failed leadership. All right, I'm going to ask you a legitimate question, and I want you to be honest with me. Does my skin look clearer? Do I have more energy than I've ever had before? Can you tell a difference? Do I look like I'm in better shape than I've ever been? Well, the Energized Health System, the protocol, has really helped me transform my life from a mind, body, soul basis. Now, this protocol is about intracellular hydration, getting hydrated at a cellular level. And man, the difference that it can make is unbelievable. Whether you want to lose 200 pounds or you're like me and lose 15 pounds in just a couple weeks on the program, this is what Energized Health can do for you. It's based in biblical principles as well. So we're talking about a total mind, body, soul program that'll have you happier, that'll help you build upon your relationships, and will allow you to do the things that you've always wanted to do physically. So whether you're 85 or whether you're 18 and you need to tighten things up, EnergizedHealth.com is the place to go. I love these guys. They've also got a My 555 challenge, 5 pounds, 5 days for just $5. Can't be beat. Go to EnergizedHealth.com. Check out the masterclass to see what getting hydrated at a cellular level can do for you. It changed my life. Let it change yours. All it is a click away. EnergizedHealth.com. What has it been now since the fires? The big fires back in January. We were going on like 8 months, right? Those fires raged for 24 days, wreaking havoc on really all of us here in Southern California, from whether you were dealing with breathing issues to having your house burned down. We are still dealing with these effects. Now, I can't get a legitimate number on how many permits have been issued. When I go to the site, it only looks like there's a handful. By other accounts, they'll tell you, oh, well, about 100 permits have been filed. But we lost thousands of homes. And you only have 100 or so permits filed at the best case. So all of this has put this reality star, Spencer Pratt, on, I don't know, the main stage. He's making a career for himself, exposing the craziness behind the fire response here in L.A. So, well, I guess we really should call it the lack of fire response here in L.A. People are so frustrated. They just want permits issued. They want to get back building. They want insurance company to handle their business. But yet, none of this is happening. Heck, we've even got a story that at the Pasadena shelter for not people, but animals, the humane shelter, the Pasadena Humane Shelter, they still have 50-something pets being housed there from the fires. Now, come on. I understand that many of you are without a home, but you've got to find some place to go. It's not the Pasadena Humane Society's responsibility to take care of your pets. So this is still, though, a big issue that we're dealing with. So Spencer Pratt has taken to social media, much to the dismay of Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, and he starts firing. Roll cut 1 for me.
Recently, Luke has uncovered something that I unfortunately am connected to because of growing up here and knowing lots of real estate agents. But my own childhood friends are out here selling up Malibu to Chinese nationals. And again, I love Chinese people. Shout out TikTok. I was selling reused luxury designer bags with my Chinese team. But my problem is that what people aren't getting is these people that are selling these lots, they were never supposed to sell. Like, my dad worked his whole life so that my little sister or me, and we could pass it down to our grandkids.
All right, so he's saying that people are selling these lots to Chinese nationals. We know there's a lot of wealthy Chinese out there. And I'm like Spencer Pratt. I have no problem with the Chinese people, but I do have a problem when you have very wealthy Chinese nationals who are probably connected to the CCP. Or I should say this. There's a strong chance that you're connected to the CCP. If you're coming out of China and you're wildly wealthy, there are strong ties to that. Now, they buy up this property, Spencer Pratt is saying. We've seen this in other places. And we have many states now across the country that are banning the sale of land to Chinese nationals. Now, California would never do that, I'm sure. Yet this does pose some sort of a risk. It also runs the fear of taking away from what that area once was. Now you're going to have all these Chinese nationals moving in, and what do they want to do with the land? It's prime real estate. I can't imagine that they want to do other than build mansions on it and have a bunch of Chinese bazillionaires living on the ocean. Or if it's further in, who knows what they're going to do with it. So this is a situation that needs to be looked at. Nobody's looking at it. And I think Spencer Pratt is right to be concerned about this. So concerned that, as I said, you've got other states that are literally passing laws to say Chinese can't own land. Now, Spencer Pratt went on to say that many Americans, Californians, are being forced to sell their property. Now, you should never be forced to sell. But after every major fire, this is what we see. It's like I'm reliving what happened in Maui in the Palisades. Remember in Maui when the fires were unleashed there? And then we heard all this news that residents were being forced to sell. They were being lowballed offers, that they, too, couldn't find homes that were affordable to live in. And so they're at a last-ditch effort. And you got Oprah coming in and buying up property. This is like the same story all over again. Yeah, maybe different players, but same story. Spencer Pratt, cut 2.
So what is happening is the community of Americans from Pacific Palisades aren't able to get money from California Fair Plan. Their insurance didn't cover. So these people are forced to be selling only because these Chinese literal conglomerates, because they're offering major money. So when I asked my real estate friends, I'm not going to name them, Coop, Sandro, and I was like, what's going on? They're like, oh yeah, it's all out of Hong Kong. So these aren't just like local Chinese families that are down the street that were going to my son's preschool. This is major, and they're trying to buy up as many as possible. And it makes me as a local feel concerned, because I'm already seeing what's happening with the people who live in Santa Monica trying to come with their laws.
All right, do you believe him? 855-785-8255. He's been doing a lot of research on this, and I'm sure he is well connected into the real estate crowd. I most certainly believe him. You know, my friends back in Texas says it wasn't people from Hong Kong coming in and buying property after the fires in California. It was it was Californians. Californians moving to Texas, and the real estate agents would say, oh, yeah, Californians are driving up the prices because they were getting out of California. Maybe they got insurance money for their home. Maybe they didn't. Now in California, we've got people from Hong Kong, and you better believe if you're from Hong Kong and you're a millionaire, this is the same thing as coming from China. So again, are you being forced to sell? I believe you're being forced to sell, at least with the respect to things are so expensive in California. Prices are so out of control. Real estate is so out of control. If you lose your house, God forbid you didn't have fire insurance, and we know that so many people didn't, you've got to sell in order to survive, even if you're taking a loss. Now, I don't know what you do about your mortgage if you owed more money than you're going to get for the house or the property. Boy, you're in some rough shape. I feel sorry for these people. Rebuilding doesn't appear to be an option, thanks to Karen Bass. Permits are few and far between. Spencer Pratt on that one. Cut 3, please.
Karen Bass is out here saying, oh, the Palisades is rebuilding. We've already issued 380 permits, when really they're including pools, jacuzzis, any extra thing, and they're just putting those all in actual full builds, Pally builds, as their data shows, it's only 104 full builds. You have it at 100.
Yep. I think it's probably even less. Call it a conspiracy theory. Have you noticed they're all centrally located, basically right as you drive into town?
Just on Sunset, so they can do.
Yeah, and I really think that's why. Like, you're driving into town, and it looks like construction's going on. It's easy for Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom to pop into town. Like, look what's going on here in the Palisades. But as you start to get out of town a little bit, off the main thoroughfares, there's really not a lot going on.
So why is that? I'm sure it's related to insurance problems. I'm sure it's related to Los Angeles dragging its feet on offering up these permits. Somebody needs to be held accountable for this. I mean, we shouldn't be 8 months later thinking about this. President Trump came in days after the fire, and he said, let's get this going. I'll have the feds in here cleaning up. And sure enough, EPA, Army Corps of Engineers were in there in days cleaning out the properties, cleaning up the lots so you could get them ready to build. And then Los Angeles drags its feet. So what happens to Bass and Newsom? Spencer Pratt again, cut 4.
So I got photos sent to me yesterday that I'm not even sure the ATF has, and it shows these, again, maybe they're from China. It's a funny coincidence. Asian tourists, okay, maybe they're not Chinese, but they are on the Lockman site on January 1st, so the New Year's Eve fire on Lockman, and they're taking photos and walking through with water bottles. And if you look, there was no fire line. They have dead brush from Topanga State Park lined up against the containment thing. And now, from my little expertise, I know you're supposed to have a bulldozer or them clean it all the way. So the smoldering roots, it's all right there, and they know an extreme wind event is coming, and it just blew right into this dead brush that's been sitting there for 40 years, and that's what burned the Palisades down. So that's why I believe very soon in the near future, criminal negligence charges are going to be hit with Karen Bass, LAFD, and Gavin Newsom for California State Parks. So I truly believe they're going to have criminal, because 12 senior citizens died.
I'm going to tell you this. You're not going to see any criminal charges against them. Who's going to file them? You'd have to have that come from the federal government. I'm not sure President Trump is going to get involved in that. I'm not even sure you can, look, Gavin Newsom is most certainly to blame, but to lay him on criminal charges would be very, very difficult, tall order to prove. I know you want me to say, absolutely, charge them all. You're going to have a tall order to charge them criminally. I don't see that happening. I do believe it was negligence. I do believe it was horrible leadership. I do believe it was the quintessential example of California liberalism at its worst, where they don't have their eye on what's important and only their eye on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and not actually keeping communities safe. But charging them criminally, good luck with that. I'd love to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. To you, 855-785-8255, 855-785-8255. Let's give you an update on redistricting. There's one Republican who is out there fighting hard to stop the redistricting plan for one reason and one reason only. He doesn't want to be redistricted out of office. I'll tell you what, I am so happy to tell you about a new sponsor of mine, the cryptocode.com/grant. This is a crypto trading system that literally takes the guesswork out of trading. It can be automated. You get trade alerts. There are the high setup probability indicators. All of it is going to be included in this system that is literally so simple to operate. So if you want steady profits, okay, if you want to build wealth, all with minimal risk, and this is the key, then the crypto code is for you. The cryptocode.com/grant. That's the website I want you to go to. So my buddies over there are running free seminars all week. This will take you through the process. They open up the playbook for you, all right? Now, as for the trading alerts that the crypto code offers, I want you to take a look at this. This is their win rate on this. 93% of the 2,175 trade alerts they have offered up multiple times per week, okay? 2024 wins, only 151 losses for a 93% win rate. I've gone through and I've checked the math on this, and I'll tell you what, it's nothing short of amazing. So if you want to get involved in crypto, but you don't want to risk the farm, the crypto code is for you, and you're not going to spend tens of thousands of dollars for these. You know, these trading bots can be very, very expensive. This is the most reasonable deal I've seen, and it may be the most successful trading bot and system and trade alerts all packaged in one that I have seen. The cryptocode.com/grant. Go sign up for this seminar. You're not going to regret it. Trading involves risk. There's no doubt about it. Results aren't guaranteed. Terms apply. I'm not giving you financial advice. That's what the FTC wants me to tell you. What I want to tell you, though, is go to the cryptocode.com/grant. President Trump, I'll tell you what, this guy dropped a bomb on Big Pharma. Now, we know that President Trump loved his Operation Warp Speed. He loves that it took such a short amount of time to come up with a vaccine for the COVID virus, which is wreaking havoc on America, or so we were told. And he really hasn't come to the conclusion that these vaccines are not good. And let me say this, that I don't know any strong Make America Great Again conservative who supports the COVID vaccine and the response to COVID. This is one spot where we really veer away from where President Trump is with Operation Warp Speed. But over the weekend, boy, well, I'll call it dropping a bomb. This is what he wrote on Truth Social. Quote, "It is very important that the drug companies justify the success of their various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that save millions of lives. Others disagree. With CDC being ripped apart over this question, I want the answer, and I want it now." I'm going to read you the rest of this, but I want the answer, and I want it now is President Trump's way of saying, I want an investigation into this. I want real answers. Well, I can already give him the answers from all the experts that we've interviewed on this program, from Dr. Barkey, who's a regular on the program, to Dr. Peter McCullough, to Robert Malone. I can go down the list. Dr. Thorpe, all using real hard numbers and science to the conclusion that these vaccines did more harm than good. So he wants an investigation into what happened. Here's where he goes on, and this is where he drops a bomb on Big Pharma. "I have been shown information from Pfizer and others that it is extraordinary, but they never seem to show those results to the public. Why not?" President Trump asks. "They go off to the next, quote, hunt, and let everyone rip themselves apart, including Bobby Kennedy Jr. and CDC, trying to figure out the success or failure of the drug company's COVID work. They show me great numbers and results, but they don't seem to be showing them to many others. I want them to show them now to CDC and the public and clear up this mess one way or the other. I hope Operation Warp Speed was as brilliant as many say it was. If not, we all want to know about it and why. Thank you for your attention to this very important matter. President Donald J. Trump." Now, at first glance, you might say, oh, man, Mr. President, you're still saying, I hope Operation Warp Speed was as, quote, brilliant as many. But this is actually President Trump saying, hey, I may think this was brilliant. I was told it was brilliant, but I'm in search of the truth. This is the first time I have heard President Trump really say he legitimately wants the truth. So as you can imagine, Big Pharma is reeling over this. They're not happy about this because they know that the whole thing was based off of sketchy, unproven science. And this mRNA vaccine did so much harm. And the research now, I just saw a study by Dr. Thorpe that it caused all kinds of neuro and psychological problems in people. Huge increases in psychological issues from people who took the vaccine versus those who didn't. And then, of course, there's the criminal aspect to all of this. So I always botch his name, but Dr. Jay Bhattacharya said this about Dr. Fauci. He's the head of the National Institutes of Health, where Dr. Fauci was. Cut 11.
I think a lot of people lost trust in the NIH and in science, actually, because what happened during the pandemic was so terrible for so many people. The schools closed. People were forced to wear masks when it didn't seem to make any difference. And then, of course, the vaccines didn't stop you from getting and spreading COVID. And the NIH, I have to say, sad to say, was associated with a lot of those policies. You know, Tony Fauci's name, people associate that primarily with the NIH. But there's much more to it than just Tony Fauci. It's an amazing institution that has 100+ year history of developing cures and treatments for the most intractable diseases. A lot of what medicine is today is because of the history of the NIH. And it's just an absolute honor to be able to, run the place.
Well, I will tell you this. I do believe there are times when government can do good. I would hope and pray that one day the CDC and the NIH return to agencies of good, where they do have the best interest of patients at heart, not the best interest of big pharma at heart. And I think that gets down to the biggest problem that we face in NIH and the CDC is that they were beholden, and the administrators there were beholden to big pharma. So maybe we get there. I don't think we're there yet. You have a bunch of members of CDC that have quit, quote, in disgust. But they basically quit for the very reason why I wanted them out. They say we're not obeying science or following science. That's the very reason I wanted them out. They weren't following science. It's amazing how they project their own failures onto us. So as those people quit CDC, I say good riddance to all of them. Scott Jennings was on CNN. He's the one conservative on there who's been a great voice for all of us in a sea of idiocracy on that network. This is what he had to say. Cut 12.
As it relates specifically to the COVID vaccine, which has been a flashpoint lately, I do think there are legitimate questions about whether it should have been mandated. And they took away the emergency designation. I think only 23% of American adults said they got it last year. Only 13% of children were given it. So the American people have started to make a decision about that. A lot of Americans have questions about all of this because of what happened during COVID with some of these officials that we're hearing from now. They didn't cover themselves in glory and what they told the American people about the safety and efficacy of that particular vaccine. So the reason we're here is not because of Kennedy. The reason we're here is because the public health regime deserves to be turned inside out after COVID.
Yeah, I agree. A real introspection of themselves and an investigation by us of them as well. All right, I want to go out to Ron in L.A. He says he's a physician. Wanted to comment on this. Ron in L.A., what say you, doctor?
Hey, Grant, how are you?
Great.
I don't know if you remember me. I was the original king of the 6 o'clock hour back a few months ago. So I'm a lung physician here in Los Angeles, and I just wanted to comment on some of the things you said about the COVID vaccine, or some of the things that are accurate and inaccurate. So there's more nuance to this than everybody tries to indicate. There can, multiple things can be true. First of all, the shutdowns were bad. The young kids don't need the COVID vaccine. The mandates were bad, but there was There were a lot of people whose lives were saved in a high risk category from the COVID vaccine. It was very effective in high risk patients, including the elderly and the obese. And if you get the right people on and ask them that specific question, like Bhattacharya, those kind of people, they'll agree with that. They're never asked that specific question. They're always asked about kids. They're always asked about the shutdown. But if you ask them, was the COVID vaccine effective in high-risk individuals like the elderly and the obese and people with serious underlying health conditions, the answer is yes. It was very effective and it saved a lot of lives.
All right, let me jump in here for 1 second, Ron. So I agree with you that there are doctors that I have spoken with, doctors that are very anti this COVID vaccine. that acknowledged that in the early days, the COVID vaccine for the initial forms of COVID seemed to work to help people, give them some sort of protection against the virus. The problem is the virus changed rapidly, and you talked about the high-risk individuals. We mandated this vaccine in people that didn't need it. Pregnant mothers didn't need it. We mandated it in young children, specifically boys who were ultimately susceptible to myocarditis at a rate that we've never seen in any other vaccine before. So the fact that we mandated them and then we started seeing young athletes drop over left and right, that's where the crime comes in. And then as the effectiveness of this vaccine waned, and it became clear that those who were vaccinated got COVID more often than the unvaxxed, and we still are mandating this vaccine among certain populations, that's where it becomes crazy to me.
Well, I don't know that it's mandated for anybody right now, but what you say is correct. It was most effective in the original form of the virus. As the virus became more infectious but less lethal, which is the pattern among all respiratory viruses, the vaccine became less and less helpful. But there still is a population of patients that probably should get the vaccine.
I would disagree, and Ron, I'm up on a break. I'm up on a break. I think this vaccine is horrible, and I'll be respectfully disagree with you. But I appreciate the phone call. I really do. And as I say, thank you to him. I want to say this, folks. One of the problems that happened early on when they were claiming the vaccine was working, they were not counting COVID deaths after one vaccine. They only counted the COVID deaths after you had 2 of the shots, because you are not, quote, fully vaccinated unless you had both shots. This is a numbers trick. And so they didn't count the first initial number of deaths, which then greatly reduces the effectiveness of the vaccine if you include the deaths that happened after one shot compared to the unvaccinated. Anyway, all of this, Ron, I respect. So this is the problem. This is why President Trump wants a real investigation into this so we can get some real answers. Oh, boy, here we go, folks. President Trump has ordered the prescription reserves of the United States to be refilled. Prescription medications are national reserves. I believe we're going to see a major shortage in prescription medications as President Trump also threatens 200 to 250% tariffs on prescription medications coming in from out of the country. You know, 90% of the ingredients to make prescription medications in the United States comes from China. That's a national security risk. So I'll ask you this. This is made in America prescription medications. 8 of the most common in this kit from the Wellness Company. Are you hoarding prescription medications like I am? You better be, because this could become a national emergency. You got ivermectin in here, you got a Z-Pack in here, amoxicillin, and then, of course, there's the field pack. When I say hoarding medications, I mean it. Look at this. I got plenty of prescription medications thanks to the Wellness Company. I want you to go on twc.health/grant. Get your kit today. See which one is right for you. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. And I promise you, you are not going to regret it. twc.health/grant. And then don't forget, there is the parasite cleanse. 60 million Americans suffer from parasites. Mebendazole and ivermectin. Only the Wellness Company offers a parasite cleanse like this, sold out 3 times. You want to get these worms out of your system? These worms right here. Let me show you. Right there. It's absolutely disgusting. That's in salmon. Well, the parasite cleanse can help you do it. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. Go through their whole website. They are great. I have some big concerns over the redistricting plan that is going on around the country, really formulated by President Trump when he asked Texas, hey, redistrict. Let's get it fair in Texas. So Texas represents more of the voters than it does right now. Get rid of 5 Democrat seats and add 5 Republican seats. So Texas does this. They pass the maps, successful. California, Gavin Newsom. You know, in some respects, it's brilliant what he did. I mean, I know we all don't like him. I know we all think he's phony. And quite frankly, the man does not have a soul. But beyond that, what he did here was taking the fight back to Republicans. You can't deny that. He gets this map passed very quickly. Now this is going to be up for a vote unless it's stopped in the courts, which, though I believe it is completely unconstitutional, though I believe, as I've laid it out for you, that lawmakers in Sacramento broke the law by even drawing up these maps before it was constitutionally acceptable, and the only way it becomes constitutionally acceptable is if the people vote on it. That hasn't happened yet. By far, this is an illegal scheme. But that doesn't matter in California. The judges are on their side. So now we're going to go through this process of voting on this, and I'll bet you it passes. I really do. And I know there'll be a big fight, and we'll do everything we can do to get the word out of why you need to stop this from happening. But I'll bet you it passes. Now, you want to know my worst prediction? I believe the maps in Texas, a court is going to say these aren't fair, and they're going to throw them out. And then you know what's going to happen? A radical court in California is going to say, oh, you guys in Sacramento, you're such lovable individuals. Yes, your maps are fair, so we're going to let you have them. Now Texas is going to be down. So as Jen Horn, my lovely co-host, said, we need other states to spring into action. Well, I got good news for you. Iowa has sprung into action. Iowa says, you know what? We're going to redistrict. That would be great. There's a few other states that are looking at this now. Now, they're going to have to do this quickly. And these are red states that I'm talking about. This has to happen, and it has to happen immediately. Or it cat's out of the bag. I mean, I guess you could have Congress pass a law saying you can't redistrict in mid-census cycle. But remember, President Trump has ordered a new census. And by the way, these maps were drawn before the new census is done. See, everything's like put in a bag, shaken up, and then whatever you get, you get. It's not the way to do things. And I understand what President Trump is trying to do, so don't get me wrong. All is fair in love and war and politics. But it is all backwards. You think you'd want the new census, then draw the new maps because you've got a new census and you need to draw new maps. And then you do what you got to do. Now, Kevin Kiley, member of Congress, California Republican, he's not happy about this because his is one of the districts that Democrats are targeting. He wants a ban on this. Roll cut 18 for me.
I've spoken to the speaker multiple times and certainly conveyed my view to him, and we have bipartisan support for this. I've heard from folks on both sides of the aisle who just think this is the wrong thing for our country, to have one state after another gerrymandering in an unscheduled way in the middle of the decade. And of course, it's especially bad here in California because our voters have said specifically, we don't want this. They've said we should have redistricting done by an independent commission. So this idea that now the politicians are trying to grab the power back and move our state backwards to this era of gerrymandering, it's exactly the wrong thing for our state, but I don't like gerrymandering wherever it occurs, whether it's done by Republicans or Democrats.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're being heard by the Republican Party, though, nationally on this issue, which you seem to be fighting both sides at this point, who are, you're on both ends here?
Well, look, that's what I promised when I first ran for Congress, is that I will stand up to either party in the interest of serving my constituents. And so if that's what's required in the moment, then that's fine.
Look, I understand what he's saying. I think everybody in a perfect world would agree that gerrymandering is not the way that we would really love for our states to be run when picking members of Congress. But we live in the real world, and gerrymandering is a thing, and elections have consequences. And if you don't want Democrats to have a say, then you better elect Republicans into office. If you don't do that, then you're going to end up with this kind of craziness. Now, I would rather Kevin Kiley have just admitted, they're going to redistrict me out of office. So it would be great if my colleagues in Congress could come to the rescue and ban redistricting. But I think it's pretty clear constitutionally that how states draw up their lines is left to the states. I think it would take a constitutional amendment to change that. So he talked about bipartisan support. Is that the case or not? This is Ami Bera. He is a congressman from the Sacramento area on the same show as Kevin Kiley. What's his thoughts on redistricting?
I wish we weren't actually going through this. I may end up running against Kevin Kiley, but I support the bill that he's put forth saying let's not do any mid-decade redistricting in any state. That said, we've already seen Texas approve new congressional lines. So I think we have to do what we can in California, and I would hope other states take a look, and those states like New York, Illinois, others would fight fire with fire. Again, I would hope that we ban mid-decade redistricting, but this is about what the future of this country looks like.
Any discussion with Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on Republican Kevin Kiley's proposal?
Well, you know what? I think when we get back next week, there'll be a lot of discussion. I think you probably will see Democrats speak out in support. And again, if that bill were to be put on the floor by Speaker Johnson, I think you'd see a lot of Democratic support.
Yeah, I think you'd see Democrat support because there's more states in a position to redistrict that are red that could add more Republicans. Look, you've got almost every New England state, all blue, no Republican representation. None of the New England states have any Republican members of Congress. Now, you telling me that there's no percentage of Republicans in New England? 40% of the people voted for Trump in Massachusetts, and they don't have any Republicans in Congress. So you better believe Democrats would vote for this. Because if all of a sudden every red state starts redistricting, well, then guess what? We'll have a supermajority in Congress. But they were smarter than us in the beginning. Maybe they're smarter than us right now. I mean, good for New England for not having one Republican lawmaker. If you're a Democrat up there, you should be applauding your lawmakers. They stuck it to us. See, at least I have a realistic view of this. So isn't it time we start sticking it to them? Every red state, Oklahoma, Nebraska, redistrict. No more Democrats in Congress. No Democrats for you. Hey, folks, wouldn't it be nice to be with a company that supports the values that you believe in, that pushes for our First Amendment rights, that protects our Second Amendment rights, that believes that freedom is the way for America? That's what Patriot Mobile is all about. You know that when you sign up with Patriot Mobile for your cell service, you're going to have a company that backs you up and backs this country up. But beyond that, you get 100% U.S.-based customer service. You get the ability to have two lines from two different networks on your phone. No other cell phone company can do that. You get a performance guarantee like none other because you get to choose what network you want to be on. So you're not giving up connection service either. And in the end, you know you're part of Stinchfield's army. Patriot Mobile is the official cell service provider of Stinchfield's army for a reason. A little bit of the proceeds that they make off of your cell phone service will go directly to help push American values, whether it's First Amendment rights, whether it's helping our veterans, whether it's protecting your gun rights, whether it's supporting programs like this. Patriot Mobile is on the front lines. If you're not with Patriot Mobile now, you know what you're doing? You're funding the woke left. There's no excuse. Make the switch today. PatriotMobile.com/grant. PatriotMobile.com/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month service, or just call them at 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT. Make sure you use that promo code GRANT for a free month service and tell them I sent you. I need the United States Congress to act, and I need them to act right now. We're already seeing turmoil from this ruling that calls President Trump's tariffs illegal. Now, this appeals court that made this ruling has caused all kinds of market volatility. I do find it funny, though, President Trump announces his tariffs, the market goes down. Then the tariffs are announced that there's uncertainty around them, and the markets still go down. I mean, they should rally. If the markets originally thought tariffs were bad, you would think the markets would rally on this news. But no, the markets go down on this news. Why? Because it turns out the tariffs were fabulous. So this is all part of President Trump's plan, is to make America prosperous again. That includes the American government taking in money, not from American citizens, but from foreign nations who want to do business here. Now, the reason I say Congress needs to act because Congress can solve this problem. If the court finds it somehow unconstitutional for President Trump to unilaterally enact these tariffs, well, then Congress ought to get involved and either give President Trump the power beyond a shadow of a doubt by passing laws that allow it, or act on their own and institute the same tariffs that President Trump did. I believe it's that simple. And Speaker of the House Mike Johnson ought to spring into action right now. And this is what our Trump MAGA Minute is all about. Trump MAGA Minute, all about.
America,
Trump MAGA Minute.
Ultra best.
This is the Trump MAGA Minute.
And earlier today, I signed Senator Bill Hagerty's Genius Act, and he named it after me, and I was really happy. Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. That's why I liked it. I pushed very hard because of that.
Make America great again.
So, Peter Navarro, one of the architects of President Trump's trade policies, he's a great patriot. You remember he took quite the hits for being a confidant of President Trump, them holding Peter Navarro and sending him to prison in contempt of Congress. This guy's back in the White House. And I love this guy. I really do, because not only is he a fighter, but he's brilliant. And he was right about these tariffs, that it wouldn't hurt the economy. He talked about this court ruling, cut 20.
So it was a bad decision, but the good news is the dissent was very, very strong. I think it provides a very clear roadmap to how the Supreme Court can certainly rule in our favor. It dealt with three major issues and some minor ones. I got a piece coming out in the Washington Times you can get the details on. But the questions are like, is there a national emergency? Of course, people are dying of fentanyl, and the trade deficit is like absolutely devastating to this country. The tariffs, this is like a semantic issue. Are tariffs qualifying as the regulation of imports? Of course they are. There's plenty of law on that.
So you better believe it's a national emergency. Joe Biden didn't see it. Nobody in the Biden administration saw it, unless they did and they wanted it to happen, which most certainly is a possibility. So President Trump acts in the face of grave danger to the American economy, and he starts turning around. I mean, look, we were on a roll, and then the courts make this decision. Now, I believe the Supreme Court will act in President Trump's favor. I'd really like to see Congress just back President Trump up on this, though, and take any of the uncertainty out of it. For all of President Trump's executive orders, this is what Congress needs to do. So these tariffs, they even surprised me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, I was the biggest fan of tariffs. I knew this would happen. I had no idea that we'd be as successful as we were and we wouldn't see inflation. I thought maybe we'd see a little bit of inflation. I mean, you know, you're raising the cost of goods. You've got to see inflation. But nope, nothing. Because he brought the cost of other things down, mainly energy, in this country. So it offset. And we did not see the inflation that we thought we would see. Peter Navarro again, 21.
One of the red herrings they threw out for the majority was that somehow, because they argued the tariffs were permanent, hey, memo to the court, we never said they were permanent. You can't find Lutnick, Besant, Greer, myself, or the president saying that. If China and the drug cartels from Mexico and Canada stop killing Americans tomorrow, tariffs go away. Ditto if the trade deficit went to zero. So the bottom line, Jackie, a very good dissent, provides a roadmap for the Supreme Court. We feel very optimistic. If we lose the case, President Trump is right. It will be the end of the United States.
I hope he's wrong on that one, because that's the last thing that we need is the end of the United States. Now, I think it's overly dramatic. President Trump was turning this country around even before we had tariffs. But I'll tell you, I love what he's doing with them. So though I don't think it'll be the end of the United States, I understand why that may need to be the message right now, because we need widespread support for this to go through, which I think President Trump was getting. When you have this much money coming in, I mean, it was really quite amazing. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, talked about tariff revenue. I want you to listen to this. Cut 23.
I've been saying $300 billion, but I think it could be much higher. Every $300 billion is 1% of GDP. We got left with a mess in terms of the deficit to GDP, the highest ever when we weren't in a recession, weren't at war. So just with the tariff income, we're going to be in the fives, which is incredible. Like that's like running a marathon and starting 5 miles before everybody else.
So, tariff revenue higher than expected. Do you see what happens when we start talking with nations? And Peter Navarro made the point. These tariffs most certainly are not permanent. And any court can see they're not permanent because President Trump has put them on, lowered them, taken them off in some cases. All in the first 7-8 months of his presidency, we saw tariffs be changed for different nations. There was no permanency about all of them. President Trump has said, we'll call you to the table. This is the tariff until we negotiate a new deal. Everything is up for negotiation with President Trump. So, yes, when you want to get the budget balanced and you want to get the deficit under control, our deficit now is 28% lower than it was under Joe Biden, and that in large part is due to tariffs and increased revenue due to the success of so many companies out there. This is what Make America Great Again policies do. They make America great again. They make us prosperous again. So, these Fed policies are working, and they're working these policies from President Trump on tariffs are working. The Fed policies could be working if Jerome Powell lowers rates next month, as he is expected to do. Why? Because we put the pressure on. I say we, not just this program, but all of you and everybody else out there calling for Jerome Powell to do what's right. Things are going in the right direction here. This court case about tariffs, a minor setback, I do believe our line in the sand, our emergency plan, the Supreme Court will come to the rescue. All right, folks, that is going to do it for us. I'm Grant Stinchfield. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, Stinchfield 1776 on all the social media platforms. GrantStinchfield.com is the website. You get all the podcasts there. And please, if you're watching, subscribe to the channel, share the channel, like the video. Heck, copy and paste the link if you want to, and share it on all of your social media platforms. This is how we get the word out there. So stick with me, please. Again, GrantStinchfield.com. That's GrantStinchfield.com. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of all of you. We'll see you tonight on the Real America's Voice show. Thanks for watching, everybody.